Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Just a brief update from the previous part one. That's the kickstart put back again, so you're on your splines, you're bolting to hold it. I could trim that off to make it look neater, but hey ho. And I've put the oil seal on the mag side in, that just pushes in, and I don't know if this will show you, but you need a gap in here from this part here. There's a hole where the mixture goes in and lubricates this bearing, your mag side, your mag side bearing, sorry, not your drive side. And there's a gap between the oil seal and the hole that goes through there. So if you push this in too far so that it actually touches the bearing, you will actually block off that lubrication to the bearing, and you'll end up trashing the bearing and probably your scooter as well, because it will let go when you're no doubt quite fast down the road. Right, so that's the side of the engine. What we're going to go through today is just looking at a standard clutch and what to check for wear and tear. This one's as good as gold. It's an original PX one, and I don't know why these are machined down. I would have thought they would have been machined down level, but I've never noticed that before. I wonder why they've done that, but hey ho, you need a tool or a bolt or some description to compress it. Let me put them bearings away again, which looks like this. So what it does is it fits in, unscrew it, and it fits in your clutch like so. So bolt in that bit, and then you've got a washer type thing that goes inside there, and then you just tighten up that. The easiest way to do this is just stick one end in a vise and then just tighten that, or get two sockets. I can't remember if it's a 19, I think it is, yeah, it's a 19, sod's law. There's our 19 out. And if we just stick that into our vise, like so, and all you need to do is just compress it down to take the weight off of the springs inside, so you can get the I'll bring you up a tad higher, you can see what's going on again. Right, so we just stick our socket on there, turn it in, and what we're doing then, we're putting the springs under load. If you can see that they've moved already down, that's fine. So I can take that out and bring you down again. And all we're doing now is we'll take our circlip off and do it with your fingers, like so. And then we just need to undo that, because it's under tension. You won't need to hold that in the vise no more. Just keep going until it lets go, basically. That's coming to the end of the nut, and then we'll just build that back up so I don't lose anything. And that's our clutch exploded. I'm just interested. Yes, I can already see what I keep telling people to do, I've done on this clutch, which is a bit of good news, to be honest, because I feel like I'm preaching about something, and you know, I might not have done it myself, but I have, and I can see that already. So just take the cover off, and there's 7 cups on a P200. Take them out, put them to one side, and 7 springs. What you're doing now, you're looking at these baskets that it's not spread, that it's in good nick, and all of these are straight, because you want the clutch to operate nice and straight. If I take out the second one, so there's a plate. You want the plates to move in and out of here nice and freely. And sod's law, I can't get it lined up, but that's what you want them to move in without going like that and getting stuck, because getting stuck's no good. Right, so we'll just go through and have a look at this clutch, make sure that nothing's worn out, which again, you know, I can't stress how good this engine was when it was built, you know, original, and this is all the original clutch to it. I just need to grab that rag. I just want to wipe and inspect, because it's all lubricated again. It's you know, it's as good as new, isn't it? So just a bit tarnished. This little spacer here, if I can get it off, it's not stuck on too much. Let's get my fingernails or a knife edge behind it. I just had to turn it to get it to come loose. That should come off. That's a bronze bush that the whole clutch moves in and out on. So if that's worn off, you'll get movement this way. So when the clutch is pressed, it will go, the old clutch will move. Also as well, what you can do, if you're worried about worn out bearings, etc., pull the clutch in and see if your flywheel moves towards you, in this case, how the engine is. If it is, you know that the bearings are worn, because the clutch will force it to move like that, and your flywheel will move towards you. If you take off the flywheel cowling when you're running the scooter and pull your clutch in, you can see it move in and out. I've seen that before where they're worn out. I mean, that's again still good nick. And what that does is it spaces off the moving part from the static part of your clutch. It all moves, but when it's under tension, these will spin, and that won't in a spinning. It's hard to sort of describe. It sounds like I'm contradicting myself, but if you can see what I mean, when you're static on a, say your bike's sitting there still, this still rotates along with your piston and crankshaft, and that would sit still, not driving your cogs, because the drive's not on. It's being taken away by the clutch basically slipping. I mean, that clutch is as good as the day it was born, a Surflix clutch. What I'm going to do is, when I build it, I'm just going to put a dab of oil, SAE 30 I use all the time. Right, so you take your clutch basket with your springs in, and take your complete clutch and just drop it in line. What you've got here, it's probably easier to show you doing it this way. You've got a load of holes. In fact, let's do it with all the holes. I don't want that to fall off. Right, you see this hole lined up here? That hole lines up with a hole on here, which is in line there. Now you can put a screw through there. What we're doing is just putting our clutch in there, and it's hard to show you, but all the springs are in line because we've got our hole. I don't know if you can see through the hole, but they're all in line now. So we'll just leave that there for a second, and if I get the compressor back out again. Because this is the beauty of having the correct tool. We can compress the springs, as we've got there, just by putting the tool in. So I'll put the tool in and just tighten the bolt up. It doesn't need to be ultra tight at the moment, because I just want to show you before we do anything, because I've noticed a couple of the springs have moved around. So we need to just get a little screwdriver, or in this case I'm going to use a file because it's got a point on it, and just bring the springs in line. You'll hear them click. That one's the one I'm on about. Hear them all click? And there's our hole that's in line. And that way you can rebuild and build a clutch the same way all the time. So I'm just going to re-oil this, give it a wipe again, just to be pedantic about it. I can compress the springs in a minute because they're now all in line. In fact, I'm going to take them in a tad. I'm doing this by hand at the moment. Yeah. So what I'm going to do now is put a bit of oil. We are all oiled up anyway, but it's just me. I want to have enough oil on it while I'm building it. So I'm just putting the oil around again. I mean, they don't rub there anyway, so that's not, you know, there's no reason to put any oil on that bit because that bit doesn't touch it. Right. Because we're already oiled up, we can just put these in one at a time, like so. We want the clutch. Again, I'm going to put the Surfix sign at 12 o'clock. So we've got our first one in. Just grab hold of the socket and tighten. I'm just tightening the springs up now. That'll do. So we've got our Surfix at 12. We put our next static pad and Surfix at, where are we, at 12 o'clock again. Again, I'm just putting a bit of oil where the plates have rubbed together while it was built previously, and this one again, and back in again. In line, and see how tight that is. There's no movement in these plates at all when they're going in. And then we want our static one with the Surfix at 12 o'clock again. If you haven't got Surfix clutches, you can always put a magic mark on the edge, so you know that you're putting them all in the same way again when you take it apart. So Surfix is at 12 o'clock again, which is there. This one you have to push in like so, and then you've got your circlip. Again, we're just going to give that a wipe. So it's nice and clean. And what we need to do, like all clutches, is just start it halfway on a metal part and just roll it in on a circle, and we're in. That's the clutch built. So all I've got to do now is undo the nut. I can take the nut completely off now. Right, the springs have got the tension. And that's our clutch built. And if you look at the clutch on there, it's slightly higher on the inside. That's so it can rotate on the crankshaft. I'm just putting this back together again. I'll stick it back in its plastic cover, make sure it's all the way on. If you're doing any engines, Vespa engines, that is a definite You need the flywheel puller, you need that, and you need a flywheel holder. They're more or less your only specialist tools other than a normal toolkit. Right, so that's our clutch built. That's a standard clutch, and let me see if I can find a Cosa clutch to show you the difference between them. That's a Cosa clutch, very similar. I'll drop that down a bit. That's a PX 125 150 Cosa, and that's a, as you know, a P200 standard clutch. This one's been welded, banded. It did come out of a tuned engine, which, to be honest with you, with the gearing of this was a waste of time in my opinion. But you can see that way round, they're very similar. That's got less cogs in it, lower gear ratio. But if I take this apart while we're doing this video, there's no harm in that. I can just show you that they are different variations on the same firmware. On the standard clutch, it's got your springs on your plates basically in the middle on the outside. On a Cosa, they're in the middle here. So in my opinion, the clutch can do that. It can wobble on your springs. I think this is an 8 spring. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is an 8 spring 150 125 one, but I think they're up to about 10 or even more than that now. So we just stick the tool back in again, the washer, and I'll just do the tool. That's what I was saying about these tools. One tool, all clutches basically. So I'm just going to do that up again. Again, we don't really need it in the vise. That's taken the spring weight off. This is also a bigger circlip than a standard circlip, because again they don't want exploding clutches. So, and again, because we've taken the circlip out, we can take all of the driven parts of the clutch out, the plates, the static plates, and again you can see they're all good. There's nothing wrong with the clutch, to be honest with you, and they don't have a captive top one, so they're all moving. That's what you would change to uprate this to a 200 one in this case. And if you can see you've still got your washer that sits in basically against here, and it's a domed one, so it sits on there and it turns around. I don't know if you can see that. So this plate then rotates on that, you see that? So it's very similar clutch in its own style. It's just this centre part here is where all the springs are. So it's like a big boss, and it's got its cut out teeth in it. And we've got our springs in line. I will undo it just because we're doing the video. But, so we're just going to undo them, the centre nut on my tool, the clutch tool. When you get close, just do it by hand. And then that's the centre boss coming out, and there's our springs. So you can see that's got a cog on it, and the springs sit inside. The springs actually sit on, can you see that, little pins to keep them straight. On these they sit in a cutout, so they sit in a cup, and on this plate a cutout, whereas the Cosa ones don't. They sit there, they won't fall over. So building it's no quicker or slower. You just need to make sure that you've got the cogs in, like I have now, in line, and then you can put your tool back on, tighten it up. Without dropping it. Right, before I tighten it up, what I'm done there is, you're making sure, see that? it goes inside, and then just tighten up your springs. And that's fully in, and then we put our floating one back again. We've got this, so that just goes around, and then we put our, I haven't actually built this, got too many clutch plates and what have you, but it's somewhere I'm just saving them. You know, there's nothing wrong with the plates again, it's just it's somewhere to put them safe. So we want our metal one to drop to the bottom, which in this case it's not done for some reason. And before we do that, the actual plates, they sit on this raised part of the leg. We'll stick that in. Metal one, cork one, and the same again. Metal one, cork one. And then what we do again is you just pick out a middle and put your circlip in the middle and roll it again in a circle motion. I'll put it in a little bit too far, so I'm just using a knife to bring the circlip out into the cutout that's there. And again, all you do then is you undo your nut. You see how the clutch spins when it's under compression? So that would be your back wheel static, and your clutch and your crankshaft will be turning. That's what I was trying to show you with the PX one, or standard one I should say. So we've looked at the differences between the Cosa or Cosa, I call it Cosa, I'll put that tool back together again. And that's our two type of clutch. It's a shame I haven't got a built up standard 151, because it will just show you that there's 6 of these springs, and it'll have a different drive ratio. Same as that one basically. 23, 22, 21, 20, they're all different ratios that people have made up over the years. And hoping everything won't fall out, but that drives against that basically. So that sits in your scooter like so, and your clutch is that way round on your crank, and you've got 2 intertwining gears, so they mesh. You can have that to be straight cut, and this change to be straight cut as well. It's one of them, isn't it, you know, where what the benefits of having a straight cut one over you know, a 45-degree angle one, I haven't got a clue, or whatever angle that is. It's not 45 degrees, is it? It's probably about 25 degrees. Normally, like in any gearbox, that's the way they cut gears, so that they mesh properly. And I think the weight then is not pulling straight down, it's more spread evenly. You know, there is a reason why they went this way, and they did years and years ago, a long time before I was born. That's another thing I was going to say. If you give that a shake and you hear it rattling, then your springs generally have broken. You get that in very high mileage older scooters, where the 2 cush springs on a P200 or the single ones break. And then you have to take off the cush drive to pieces and basically rebuild it. But I'll cut away now, because we can see the difference in the 2 clutches. how high that one sits in relation to that one. It's kind of hard when I'm trying to show you the difference in, it's only millimeters, but this, if you've got putting one of these into a 125 or a 150, the Cosa clutch I'm on about, if you're doing that, sometimes you have to cut these away, because when it rotates inside, that one will clear, no problem at all. See the gap I've got there? Whereas this one, it will actually catch. It catches on that, and you'll get a rubbing noise. Now SIP do sell, it looks like a aluminium gasket to pull this face off to give you a bit more space. It's one of them, you can do the mod here, take that right the way down. You do need a 200 cover if you're putting that clutch on anyway, because they do, you can see the profiles there. It sort of, it hits, it doesn't clear where these cutouts standard all are, so they're modified for the Cosa if you're buying a kit basically. So right, there's nothing wrong with us putting the cush drive back in. Actually, I might do that in the next video, but I'll put this away. You know what the clutch looks like now and how it works. And obviously to buy the correct tool, not mess about, and don't try and do this with, you know, incorrect tools, because you want everything to go back nice and neat and all sit nice, you know, all your springs are nice and even. That way you'll guarantee you'll have a nice clutch when you put the scooter back together again. So